Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Astara, and I'm an angelic communicator and clairvoyant. I'm going to talk to you today about a very sensitive topic, but pretty important on the twin flame journey. And you might kind of wonder how I got there to this particular topic. And sometimes I ask myself, like, how did we get here to this kind of strange and wonderful otherworldly land? And this is how the masculine, usually the masculine twin, the masculine counterpart, and sometimes called the matrix twin, can sometimes be surrounded by energies like spells and curses or energetic manipulations that make it harder for them to remember who they truly are, and how it's often the divine feminine's role, the feminine counterpart, the awakened twin, is often part of their role to awaken their twin and dissolve these spells and blocks by, well, we do this in all different ways, but usually by holding on to a higher frequency. I stumbled across this completely by chance when I first met my twin. I had no idea, firstly, that they were my twin, just so you know. I was kind of baptized into this crazy process in a very unusual way, as I'm sure you all are as well watching this video. I just noticed that there was a lot of heaviness on this person that I met. And it can be quite common that when you meet your twin, either you or they or both of you are going through some very deep dark night of the soul. It can be quite an intense part of your life at the point where you meet them. So I obviously stumbled into this person's life at a point where they were in a very low place. And that's not unusual for me because I'm a healer and I work a lot with suicidal men, not by choice, but that seems to be the kind of people who would come into my acupuncture practice and that I would be able to help. So it wasn't unusual for me to be talking to this lovely person, and even though they weren't telling me that they were struggling, I definitely felt it in their energetic vibration. And as time went on, I realized that this person was very trapped, and they were trapped in themselves with a lot of emotional fears and blocks, but also they were held in a lot of spell work. And this wasn't something I just came to on my own. I also had some help with other amazing healers along the journey who were able to also identify what was going on. So in many twin flame connections, the masculine or matrix twin is usually deeply embedded in the 3D reality. And this can mean that they're very much stuck in careers and family structures and societal programming or even karmic relationships, which is kind of leading me into how I've seen the experience I had with my twin, but also with people I work with. So this doesn't mean that the matrix twin is any less spiritual. It simply means that their awakening process may be slower or more hidden, and it may also be inhibited by these energetic manipulations and boundaries. So often when you meet your twin, you might see, if you're intuitively awakened, which a lot of divine feminines are, you might actually see these spells. And if you're looking for spells on somebody, often you can see it in their aura. You can notice there are different spells and patterns and projections that can sit in different parts of the aura. Some might sit in the mental body, some might sit in the emotional body, or you might see them actually in parts of the chakras. And creates a sort of energetic interference. Now, with my particular twin, I'm gonna let you know they had a particular spell that was binding their sacral area and also their root chakra. And when I looked at the energetic imprint of this, and it was coming from their karmic partner who they were with. Now, this is very difficult because obviously you don't want to interfere, but I always ask that if something is of the highest light, and I didn't know that this person was my twin at the time, but I could tell they were suffering and I could identify where it was coming from. So I just asked for this to be removed, this spell to be removed. And it's interesting what happened after that because there was definitely a lot of movement and seeing this person gaining more of their energy and their volition about who they are and being able to move on from the situation they were in. Now, this wasn't a manipulation by me. I just want to say this because I didn't actually know at the time. I was just doing a favor, like a healing process, and they didn't actually know what I was doing. But I tend to ask if this is in the highest alignment with my guides and my free will, their free will, and if it's for the highest benefit of all concerned, then for this to be enacted. So most people don't like the word spell, do they? And let's have a look at it because I do actually mean a spell. I mean a manipulation of energy with someone's intention. So this can be an individual or a group. It doesn't necessarily have to be human, but often they come through humans who do the spells, and it's an intention of influencing another person's thoughts, feelings, or choices and sometimes affecting their free will on quite a deep level. So I just want to say here, if you ever are tempted to do a spell, please do not, because it creates and sets up a karmic timeline for you, and it's not a good thing to do because it affects the sovereignty of another person, it affects the soul path of another a person, and it's a violation of free will. And unfortunately, there has been a lot of spell work going on throughout history and across cultures, and energetic manipulation is widely used. We are living in a time where most people are under the matrix or the dream spell, which has been around in our world for a long time, and there has been a lot of use of this domination control energy. So, in the Twin Flame Collective, I've noticed that these interferences and spell work can be more intense, especially on the masculine. Now, the feminine usually has a different sort of a thing going on because the feminine is often finding her own power, but it's the masculine who's often embedded in the matrix and has a lot of power. And so beings want to dominate and control that power. So we've got what's set up here as a very difficult situation for a lot of people because the twins often don't understand when they meet why they don't recognize each other. And spell work is definitely one of the reasons that the masculine finds it difficult to recognize their twin. So when you first meet your twin, if you can identify any spells and simply break them with just being who you are, actually. You don't actually have to do a lot. And I do encourage you not to do any spells against them, just to allow it to dissolve and break and then release your twin in the way it needs to. So this is about the divine feminine who is awakened, just carrying that frequency within them, carrying the frequency of remembrance. And your presence alone is an activator for the masculine twin, and that spark should begin the awakening process when they meet you, for him to recognize his own divinity and the connection between you that they actually share with you. And sometimes you'll need to do a more advanced process of spell breaking. And this doesn't mean that you're doing a spell, this means that you're holding a high vibration of love and truth and sovereignty. So this can neutralize or dissolve the lower energies that might be surrounding your twin. Now, I also call in Archangel Michael, the Angelic Council of Light. I have broken many spells for people, both twins and non-twins. The way I came across all of this stuff was finding spells in my own energy field that I realized that I had to dissolve, some from past lives, some from this life. And it is a kind of constant process. But when you get to a high point in your vibration, these spells can no longer hold you. And so it's really important that we don't get too afraid of this, that we just realize that this dark energy cannot survive in a room filled with light. It cannot survive when you and your twin come into frequency with one another because the energy is much stronger. The energy of love is much stronger. And when the feminine holds a resonance in love and not in control or fear, because sometimes people can go into control and fear. I've noticed that sometimes people can get very concerned about their twin and any ex that they're connected to or anyone like that. And they sometimes get hooked into the idea that they have to do more. But actually, this is bringing in a kind of control and fear energy timeline, and it's better that you just sit in your power and allow things to transform in the love frequency. So, this is where the energy of manipulation begins to lose its power. And this is not about doing spells back. I just want to make that absolutely clear. It's about embodying a frequency so pure that manipulation simply cannot stick. And if you call in some very beautiful guides, like Mother Mary is an amazing ascended master for breaking spell work. She comes in a lot in my readings if that comes up for people, especially generational curses and anything on the masculine which is preventing him from moving forward. Archangel Michael's amazing for working with this, and I'm sure you can name many, many others in your team. And just by holding your vibration as an old soul, you're able to do this yourself. So if you are the feminine counterpart, sorry, my cat's come to say hello. Hello, darling. If you are the feminine counterpart, then the most powerful thing you can do is stay anchored in your light and your own alignment and your own healing. And what I would say here, and this is what I did when you break a spell, I would then move away. Sorry, this is my cat. Hello. If you for example, when I recognize my twin had this spell on them, I didn't stick around to find out how it all went. I just broke the spell and then moved away, and then really just prayed that everything would work out. So some people feel the need to keep checking on their twin, like social media, or keep checking on things. And sometimes that is because you're checking to see if there's another spell. You might be doing unconscious, you're doing that, but you could be checking the energy to make sure. But what I noticed is after the initial stages of cutting away these spells and this spell work, and it wasn't always from exes, sometimes it was from people they worked with, sometimes it was from family members who had a vested interest in keeping them stuck and not meeting their twin. And there is a lot of energy to try and stop twins from coming into union because they are a very powerful combo when it happens. So, if you are the feminine counterpart, the most important thing you can do here is stay anchored in that vibration that you hold, that loving vibration. And this is your own alignment, your own connection to source. Maybe protecting your own energy is a good idea here in case there is a particularly strong spell, and calling back your power both for you and your twin. And also to send unconditional love to your twin, but do it in a way where you're not losing your power and you're not trying to be controlling. Trust that your higher vibration is already dissolving what isn't meant to stay. By doing this, you act as a lighthouse, and this allows your light to disconnect spells and dispel them, I guess that's the word. And your light isn't forcing the masculine to awaken, it's simply illuminating a path here so he can walk through when he's ready. So I just want to repeat, remember that spells and manipulations are just distorted energy. That's all they are. And love is the highest frequency. When you really stand firm in your light, the interference that happens here is loses its grip, and both you and your twin can move forward within this to freedom and union. And on that note, if you are finding spells and you do have trouble with it, then just know that we can definitely work with that in a twin flame clarity session, and there are other people that do this kind of work. So I want to say here, it's been really wonderful doing this channel with you. Thank you for walking this path and for listening and for embodying the divine feminine frequency on earth at this time. If this message resonated, please like and subscribe and share it with people, because we're raising our collective vibration and this has a huge effect on the twins coming into union. I also want to say here, I'm going to be holding a weekly twin flame reset meditation. I've got in my link tree, if you go to Instagram, my link tree, you'll see how to join me on that. And it's just going to be a weekly check-in. We're going to be working with the divine feminine, goddesses, ascended masters, and angelic beings to do a meditation each week where we just clear and cleanse our own bodies, the physical body, the mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies, and just realign ourselves to the frequency of love, and also helping the whole collective raise its vibration. Because the more we come together and work together, then we begin to become an organism that is healthy and working together to bring things into balance and alignment for us all. So if you're interested in that, go to my link tree on my Instagram and have a look. And if not, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.